So the gang stalking phenomenon and all this stuff with targeted individualism and chosen one, I compare it to like a medical condition. So what it is that it's a force-fed illness. So it's designed to drive a person into disability, and that could be either in the form of a psychotic disorder, or homelessness, even death, or just, public shaming, running them out of town. My name is Barbara Culver, and I'm a psychiatric nurse practitioner who traveled over state lines to help my father with end-of-life needs in New Jersey. So I went from New York City into New Jersey. I guess they call it South Jersey, Mid Jersey. I don't even know what part of Jersey I'm in, but I became a targeted individual, right? So what I find interesting, or what I found interesting from the very beginning, was the fact that I was reading all of this stuff about targeted individualism, and when I looked it up, it said that it's a psychiatric disorder of a person who has a belief system that they're being followed or targeted and so forth. And prior to that term showing up on my YouTube feed, I had never heard of the term before. And I'm a psych NP. I would know. I would be familiar with the term if it existed. So it's like a made-up condition. And I guess the stage was set a long time ago with, layering the internet with all of this information about people. So what they do now is they will, they'll select a person, because this is a game. It's like a video game in real life. I have other videos that describe that. And I compare it to like a dancing chicken in a display case. So a targeted individual, that's the first phase of the illness. And that will create a sense of paranoia and so forth. People worry that they're being followed by the government and stuff. And it's really just all this information getting brought to the person on the internet. Myself, when I was getting bombarded with propaganda about targeted individualism, I saw that there were two other women that were on YouTube posting about this, and both of them were giving a very dystopian outlook, suggesting that this is for life and there's so much corruption and all of that. And I guess that's true, but I don't think it's as dystopian as people think. Anyway, so that's the first phase, the targeted individual phase. Second phase is chosen one. So once you move through the targeted TI or whatever phase, you're then promoted into chosen one status. So chosen one status is where you're fed propaganda that it's a biblical situation, that you're like a Job or a David and Goliath, that you're David, or some kind of stuff. They also like to throw in lots of bogus stuff about, I'm sorry, I look around a lot because I'm dealing with this problem. A lot of stuff about, being the chosen one, being the next Christ, that you're able to do miracles because you've been surviving this campaign for so long. And not that it's a flag of a crime, but I do find it oddly interesting that I was allowed to accumulate 2 years of back rent, okay? Because they were letting this story go. So this is a big moneymaker. No landlord is going to let the tenant pay rent for 2 years. So it's all entertainment. So then you're in the chosen one status. So when you're in the TI status, it's about paranoia and that people are following you and this and that. So a person can discredit themselves by coming out and reporting all that, and they could get institutionalized. Then when you move on from that chosen one, so then you're expected to become delusional with like, oh, you're a miracle worker, you've been surviving this for so long, you must have, a super vibration, and you might even be the second Christ, okay? And we know what happens to people. Well, we know what happened to Christ, the poor guy, right? But so they go in that direction, and then they start calling you arrogant after that. Then they go on to narcissist. So I noticed that I have lots of tarot card videos in my feed, because these aren't things that I selected myself at all. They're being fed to me. So, and so I'm communicated with by way of YouTube, but I've been separated from the community, and that's been the only reason that I've been able to observe all this, because I'm observing everybody's behavior, and I'm in a rental that is designed for these type of campaigns. So it's like a fun house rental where you can make a person paranoid, and they had done that to me for a while. The way that they make a person sick with either paranoia or anything is by having the person secrete extra glutamate. Glutamate is like the gas pedal in your brain. So the way I describe it is dopamine is the steering wheel. So the dopamine will put you in the direction of what you want to do. You know, whether it's shopping, gambling, eating, drugs, you know, sex, whatever it is. The dopamine points you in that direction, and then it's the glutamate that gets you there. And all of the decisions we make all day long, it's glutamate. You know, what am I going to have on my bagel? You secrete glutamate. How do I get here? How do I get there? When you have to actually follow a map with directions, it's like finding a new path. It takes a lot of glutamate. It takes a lot of mental energy. So that's the campaign too. The layered landscape, fraternized layered landscape. It's designed to have a person like looking at, what is this? What is that? Figuring things out, just things that are odd. And so it's all to induce brain fog, and it's basically a disease course. So you start with some harassment, and then you get fed targeted individual propaganda on the computer, because I don't think anybody has ever heard of that, you know, that label before getting fed it. And as a psych NP, I guarantee I never heard of anything having to do with targeted individualism until I was identified as one, involuntarily. And it's not delusional. So it's a force-fed illness, and it has to be taken care of right away. I didn't take care of my situation. I was hoping that it would clear itself up, that I'd be able to reestablish my credibility, and it hasn't, because it's an entertainment venue, and the longer that it goes on, the more money they make. So I can't imagine how much money they're making, but upward and onward, write everything down. That's probably the most important thing you can do, is each day keep a small description of what happened. If anything significant, swatting or anything like that, make sure you have the date, because you're going to need all this information when it's time to extricate yourself. I offer coaching. I have a money-back guarantee. If we don't have a solid plan to get you out of your situation within an agreed time, so I give people up to 3 months, but if you want a shorter time than that, I will work closely with you, help you figure out what the situation is, develop a plan to extricate yourself, and you have a money-back guarantee. We'll sign paperwork that says that. I have affordable rates. Check out my information below, and if you're a New York State resident that's having issues with this, you can schedule a Psych NP appointment with me. Okay, upward and onward. Let's stay safe and write everything down.